everybody. I am Gregory Q. Jenkins. I'm the founder and CEO of Quintasia Studios, and this is the Quintasia Podcast. Welcome. Now, as for those of you who have been following us over the last few weeks, you know that how we roll is this is us, the management team of our company, and we interview various guests. We have a very special guest today. I'm happy to say, filmmaker, director, who we've become acquainted with, and we want to learn more about him today. Please welcome to our podcast, Satie Gossett. And if that last name sounds familiar, yes, it is of that Gossett. He is the son of legendary actor Louis Gossett Jr. So welcome.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen. It's
Pleasure to have you.
Pleasure to have you here. Thank you for dropping by today. We want to obviously use this opportunity to get to know a little bit more about you and you know, find out what's happening with you these days. So obviously, well, not obviously, for those who know that you're a filmmaker, and you grew up obviously in this environment. What are some of your favorite films, and what inspires you?
Well, it's interesting. The favorite film thing is always like a great topic of conversation amongst peers and friends. And I have like my rotating top five in no particular order. You know, obviously growing up in the movie industry, you know, I'm a movie buff, cinephile. So I like everything from the mainstream to the obscure. But if I had to name it right now, someone stopped me on the street, I'd probably say like The Exorcist. I like Empire Strikes Back, Risky Business. And then there's an obscure, I don't know if it's obscure, but obscure movie from the 90s called Fresh by Boaz Yakin, which is good. And then The Color Purple.
Wow, that's quite an eclectic list, and very different types of movies. If I may ask, what puts The Exorcist on? What about that movie? To me, even though the technology is vastly different, that's still one of the scariest movies that I've ever seen. What about that movie makes your top 10 list?
Well, I think if it was the common denominator of all the films, they're all very evocative, you know, emotionally. And, you know, with that movie in particular, you know, it's just the whole test of faith, battle between good and evil. Father Merrick, his faith being tested. Max von Sydow's character, him completing closure with battling, you know, the antagonist. You know, Linda Blair, I mean, she's almost like, I don't want to say she's a non-sequitur. She's just kind of like a vessel in that thing. But, you know, just the sound design, especially the sound design, still holds up today. You know, Ellen Burns, you know, just who's an atheist, and she has to come to this very visceral subject matter and get help. And, you know, just William Friedkin, just the thing, you know, you hear the backstories about it. I've been to the Georgetown Steps. I've met Linda Blair. It's just a film that still resonates. You know, it's funny about that film. If you're bored and you go on YouTube, you can look up Exorcist openings and have lines around the block. And they have camera crews outside of the movie theater, and people are stumbling out, you know, and they had the big smelling salts, the ushers, and, you know, the black people had their come to Jesus moments, and the white people are crying and passed out on the lounge. I said, "What happened?" I've been there. Well, I didn't see her head spin around like that. I had to go. And it still holds up. I mean, we have all these effects, but this movie, which is very kind of real-time effects, it still works.
Yeah, there's something about that movie. To this day, I can't watch that movie at night. I think it does such a good job of sparking your imagination.
And
I
that's
won't
part
be
of
able
it
to
too.
sleep.
Yeah, and also from like a writer's perspective, William Peter Blatty, he wrote this book, and this guy came from a comedy writing background. And I was watching the little thing. It's like he wrote this novel with like no outline, no notes. He just kind of locked himself into a house and just kind of came out.
Mm.
So just all those little tidbits. And, I've read the book. It's just a movie that just kind of gets you. Like on YouTube, they have like this whole rash of movie reaction channels, and you watch people watching movies like this for the first time and seeing how they react. It kind of brings you back to those moments. Bill
Now,
Simmons has yeah.
now, just as a quick aside, do you have an interest in making horror films yourself?
Um, I'm open to it. I mean, it's funny you say that because I just shot a feature, and one of the people that was in it, she asked me to do like a horror short, which they want to turn into a feature.
Mm.
So um, I'm all for it.
I mean, well, I'll be looking out for that. I know that obviously um, the horror genre is. I don't. Some people say it's in the resurgence. I don't think it ever really went away. Horror has been a pretty steady staple for a while.
Yeah,
Um,
a lot of first time directors they cut their teeth in horror because it's easy, it's sellable. You put some strangers in the house and you put a killer outside, and there you go.
it it's funny because in the writers communities that I belong to, just a few years ago, I was hearing consistently, not by studio execs, mind you, but from people who allegedly knew what the studio execs would want. People were saying, horror is dead, don't write a horror script. And I don't know anyone that would pass on a good horror script. I think that's something that they're always looking for, if the right one, that fits whatever. Obviously, the big thing was like, in isolated locations, because obviously they wanted to do it for as little cost as possible. So that was the big thing for a while. But it always seems to have some popularity. I never understood where that came from, where the thought came from. Um, that horror was sort of out of vogue, but if it was, it's definitely back now.
Yeah, but
Um,
horror's bread and butter.
yes, definitely. Now, what other people may not know about you, which I found interesting. So you teach filmmaking as well. You teach to high school students, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Um,
I spent the last 3 years teaching video production, filmmaking at a public high school in South Central LA. When COVID hit, um, they cut the program because how are the kids going to work with the equipment if they're locked up in their house? I spent the last third of the semester having them just shoot on their smartphones. I did like cooking videos and things like that, and they turned out okay. Some kids did some stop motion videos, and
ah,
so it worked out. And then I started an organization called Social Cinema Foundation, and uh, we had a group of kids create PSAs for the voting campaign last fall
mhm.
called Vote Your Voice Matters, and we did a promo, and it ended up going to like 4 high schools around the country. We got over 60 submissions, and the winner came out of Fayetteville, Georgia, and uh, we had partnered with Michelle Obama's organization, and the plan is hopefully, we're going to do another pilot program with the National Urban League in June, and we want to eventually start a film festival showcasing this kid's work, but also filmmakers that make films that have to do with the social cause or social change. But it all begins with the kids. We've created like a pretty easy curriculum that we can teach over Zoom, and kids can shoot with their smartphones until things continue to open up. And it's fun. It's fun working with the kids. It's fun getting them engaged, and it's great because when you're trying to inspire these kids, you're really inspiring yourself. Because if they don't see you excited about it, then they're not excited about it. Especially
Right.
now with the smartphone, it's like how are you gonna get their head up out of the smartphone?
Yeah, that is a challenge. Um, what advice when you first get a new class of students? Is there anything that you tell them in terms of, how to become a better filmmaker? What advice would you give them?
Well, first thing I tell them is to go into plumbing
Okay. So yeah, I gotta
no,
ask you why plumbing?
because it's easier to become a plumber than it is to become a filmmaker.
Gotcha.
But no, I mean, I ask them, why they're here, and I'll get the garden variety answers. Oh, I want to be famous. I want to be on YouTube. Like, no, you got to do it because you have a story to tell. That it's something that you're passionate about. It's something that kind of keeps coming back to you and keeps kind of tapping you on the shoulder. Um, and you really got to learn to love and be invested in the work. Worry about being famous per se. If your work resonates, that'll be a byproduct, good or bad. But you got to have a story to tell. It's not filmmaking, maybe it's writing, maybe it's drawing or painting. But I'll tell all of them that you're here for a reason because you feel like you have a story to tell, whether you know it or not. Here's an opportunity to share it with the world. And I'll tell them, like a lot of the famous filmmakers, they started off like in high school. It's like, oh yeah, I met my buddy Clint at so and so high school, and we decided to like this road kids. This could be your production company. This could be your crew, and that's how you build. So
Good.
that's what I tell them.
Definitely good advice. It is about the storytelling and focusing on that. I think in the age of our social media, people focus on the byproduct rather than the work. But if they want to be really good at it, we had someone a guest on a couple of weeks ago, and she said the best advice she got, which James Cameron did this interview, and is pick up a camera and start shooting. If you're passionate about telling a story, go out there and just start experimenting in how you tell your story. I think
That's what
that's
I did
yeah.
growing up. We were recreating movies like we did Die Hard. It's funny. We did Batman. We did our version of Batman.
Who played
I
Batman?
played the Billy D. Williams. Who played Batman? My friend Chewie did. I played the Billy D. Williams character for obvious reasons. Whatever. Um, and we did Freddy versus Jason in Malibu. I grew up in Malibu. So, we just had fun. We didn't think about being famous. It's just, let's make movies for ourselves, and that's
Right.
another thing I tell them. You got to make it for yourself. You got to make films that you would want to see on screen that haven't been seen before, or your iteration of it. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. There's enough people out there that would be interested in seeing your work if you put your heart into it.
Do you and having said that, I don't this also just sparked a question. Do you think that in today's social media generation, sharing art is a very um vulnerable thing to do. It's a piece of yourself, you put it out there. Um, and I wonder, and you don't know how audiences are you never know for sure how audiences are gonna react to your work. Um, do you think today's youth are at a disadvantage to that? Are they like I think that you can never make a film to try to please your audience. I think that leads you down the wrong path. Like you said, you need to start. It starts with you, because if you're not passionate about what you're doing, if you're just trying to um, go down a checklist of what you think people want to see. I think that comes across. Do you think do you have a sense of from your students that are they are they ready for putting their work out into the wild, if you will, and standing back and letting whatever criticisms may come of it?
No, I don't think they're ready because with the smartphone and everything, they become very disassociated from the process. I mean, one of the things I noticed with my students is that it was difficult to get them to stand in front of class,
Mm,
much less, but they would take like 100 selfies
mm.
with their camera. And I would joke with them, it's like, how can you do all these selfies, but you can't showcase like a 1 minute clip in front of your classmates? It's different. It's like, well, how's it different? You know, they could never answer that. When I finally did get them to put their work up and they got positive feedback, then I, oh, okay. But it speaks to that vulnerability that you're talking about. Again, with social media, people are very disassociated from that personal experience. But if they're making a film, it, it becomes very personal because there's a connection to that art,
Right.
not like a selfie or a TikTok video or whatever, or Instagram. Da, 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 da. So it's an interesting phenomenon. And my job to figure out how to navigate that, have the kids kind of overcome those barriers.
And generally, do you find that most or some are able to do that?
In my experiences, I would give it the 20% rule.
Hmm.
80% are like, they'll just do what they have to. 20% will be actually invested in the process. You know, I don't know, what is that Pareto principle?
Yes, the Pareto
20,
principle.
20
Yes.
Pareto principle. That's pretty much what it is. Um, One of the reasons why I started the organization was to see if I can get those numbers up, to actually bringing in kids that wanted to be invested in that process. So they get the mentoring and nurturing that they need in order to get to the next level.
Okay, I was curious to know as we were talking about that kind of I think back to some of the people I know and some of the young people in my family, and uh, they're all over social media. Like you said, they're taking selfies about one every 30 seconds, but they seem to be very sensitive to criticism. And in this business, um,
You
that
got
could
to
be
have a
a,
thick skin.
yeah, that could be a lethal combination.
Well, it's funny because they'll take tons of selfies, but okay, now it's time for the family picture, and they're hiding their face and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And that goes along the board. It's just an interesting phenomenon to me.
And I think that yeah, to me, and this is why I don't think theaters are going to go away. I'm not one of those people that are predicting the death of the in theater experience. There's something different about sharing that film experience with an audience, where
Oh,
you're all
definitely.
experiencing it together. And I think, you can't replace that by watching it at home. I mean, it's nice, it's convenient, but when you're sharing the same, especially like we talked about horror, that's a really good example of where that shared experience kind of enhances the experience. It's not only you're afraid or apprehensive about what you're seeing on screen, but everybody in the room with you is feeling it with you, and you feed off of that energy.
Definitely. I mean, one of the most outstanding experiences is when the last two Avenger movies came out,
Yes.
and especially not Endgame, but the one before that, and that last 20 minutes where things went south, just the whole theater just sucked the oxygen out of the room. It's just like
Infinity Wars, right?
Infinity Wars, yeah, and
Yeah.
they're just this wails and gasps of grief, and I'm like, oh, this is serious, guys.
But they did a good job of drawing you in, and
They did, and the
yeah,
payoff at the end of the other movie was spectacular.
yeah.
It was like a concert. It turned into a concert.
What I guess I'm in awe of is the level of planning that went in
Oh,
to do that. I mean, that was years in the making. Multiple films, all kind of setting up the story that culminated into that storyline. So it's really
mm-hmm.
well done.
It's yours.
Yes. All right, so let me ask you a different question. What topics do you rarely see discussed in films that you would like to see on film? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Mm, it's actually we touched on this yesterday, and I was speaking about just how certain people of color are portrayed, and tropes that are falling into it's either ultra high or ultra low, and I feel like we need to see different layers. Everyday people dealing with the same neuroses that the people that are commonly exhibited, per se. What's interesting with this whole diversity push, especially with the Oscars, see the Oscar nominees, how many more personal stories are being told. Nomadland, Minari, and just seeing different cultures, different races, but they're going through the same stuff.
Hmm.
The, the stories that are about people that are normally told, everyone has the same hangups, insecurities, um, wins, losses, but they deal with it in different ways. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah,
It's funny
I
because I had an idea for a film or series that I wanted to do one day. It's called The Henchman. You know what a henchman is, right?
yes,
Every superhero, they have a villain and he has his henchman. What is the life of a henchman? How did he
not.
become a henchman? Nothing. Is there a henchman union? Did he answer an ad on Craigslist? What happens after he gets his ass kicked? What does he tell his family? Does he move on to another villain afterwards? After the guy is defeated, it's like, oh, I need to work for this guy now. I think that would be a funny series.
What's the retirement plan for henchmen?
What's the word retired? Well, we got to be big on medical. I'll tell you that much. Especially if there's a normal.
Very true, very true. I'm going to take a quick little pause here for a second for those who might be have joined the podcast but didn't join at the top. This is the Quintasia podcast, and we are talking today with Satie Gossett, and we thank you so much for being here. Let me continue our conversation. I'm now going to turn it over to our CTO, Harv Latko, who's going to continue our conversation. All right, take it away, Harv.
Welcome, Satie, to the Quintasia podcast, and we're happy to have you on our podcast and work with you. Thank you for
Awesome.
coming.
Thank you for having me.
Obviously, this is a different line and project for you working with Quintasia, and we're looking forward to working with you in the future and creating a great experience on both sides here. What do you look for in a project when you're looking for your next project?
I look at characters, what the characters going through in their station in life, you know, how they handle that, with the obstacles that they overcome, also the setting. Those are the things, because it all starts with the character, their affectation, and sure that they say that there's 7 stories that are recreated over and over, different iterations, Joseph Campbell or whatever. But there's always a fresh twist to retell those stories. So if I can see a new way to put a spin on it, then it's a fun challenge to tackle.
And is that sort of embodied in any of the current projects you're working on? Can you tell us a little bit about some of the projects you're working on now?
Yeah, I just finished a principal photography on my first feature. It's called Heaven's Revenge, and it's about a woman scorned. Short film was done in the summer previous. This woman, she meets a guy who turns out to be a player, and obviously she gets hurt. Bitter rage, she shoots him and leaves him for dead. Now in the feature, it picks up where that's left off. She goes to the hospital pretending that they're still together and takes him back home. And she needs to get her pound of flesh, try to get him to atone for his wrongdoings. He's trying to escape. People are coming by, checking up on him, and she's being evasive. But at the core of the character, this woman's sadness is, everyone kind of has a choice how they deal with their grief or their pain. Most people go right, and then a few people go left, and we want to see the layers of what happens when we do go left. Is it justified? Sure, the guy did it, but did he really deserve all this happening to him? So on and so forth. And I like to call it misery meets fatal attraction with people of color. And so, a friend of mine, she wrote it. We've known each other for 20 years. She was the first African American on The Bachelor.
Oh, okay.
In the first season of Bachelor, Lenise Adams. And we did another short, which you guys know about, Beautiful Thorn.
Yes.
And to come to think of it, it's kind of the same type of woman. But, I find that I tend to be attracted to kind of like the underdog character, see how they overcome, how they react to life, and how people react to them, and the actions they take in order to get what they want. That's what's going on right now. And then a friend of mine asked me to shoot a horror short about called Jared Was Here, and it's about a woman, kind of a high-powered office corporate executive, and she's not paying attention, and she has an accident and kills someone on a bike, and the repercussions of that come back in spiritual form, testing her fortitude. So that's going to start in May, and I have my own fair that I'm writing. I'm working on a pilot about my experience teaching in the inner city. I don't know if you guys are Wire fans.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, well, Presbeluski? Season 4, where he's teaching kids.
Yes.
Black Presbeluski.
So that's the inspiration.
That's the inspiration. That's the trial by fire. That's what I related to. And, I want to get that done one day, and then I have other projects that I'm trying to get off the ground that I've written, and I'm just gonna keep doing a little every day.
Well, it seems like you have a pretty good mix, and I guess you need to balance. Being a actor, director, or whatever aspect, you're an entrepreneur. We got to target that sort of segment as well. You mentioned some of the students and inspiring other people. What skills should, in particular, a filmmaker of color focus on in order to help them be successful in this very, very competitive industry? Can you give sort of some advice to our podcasters who are listening this and have aspirations to become filmmakers? What advice would you give them?
Well, the two things that pop out is, and not only would it be for people of color, but for anyone, is the ability to network, to kind of find your tribe. And what I tell a lot of kids is like, where you go to school is basically where your tribe's going to be. Obviously, the higher level tribe you go, whether you go to Harvard or NYU, it could be at a community college. As long as you find your tribe and that alumni base from that school or vocational place, that's there for you to mine. That's why you're going to school, to be able to foster those relationships. And the second thing is, like, watch a lot of TV and films, new stuff, old stuff, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. Go to the movies. Just watch good stuff, watch bad stuff, watch stuff that you like, what stuff you don't like. You know, read about it, watch stuff on YouTube. I can kill half a day just watching YouTube clips of my favorite films. It's more fascinating to me that someone actually curated that list.
Well, it's good advice. Build your tribe, and go to Harvard. I mean, as you were saying that, I couldn't help but think of W.E.B. Du Bois. Sort of the first African American to earn a PhD from Harvard. And looking back on it, I'm sure he was trying to build his tribe, but I mean, good advice, but I mean, it's not always so straightforward. Here's a member of a tribe of a PhD from Harvard, and even being a part of that tribe, I'm sure there's obstacles. And you know, being a filmmaker, being an entrepreneurial, do you sort of have any motivation for, when you hit that failure? What kind of advice would you give to people as they struggle to build that tribe and struggle to build their films?
You gotta keep going, because it's not the most talented that make it all the time. It's like really a war of attrition and last man standing. And you gotta do one thing every day, whether it's write or watch a movie or call somebody or go to an event or Q&A. They're out there. It's like there's a screening of a movie. You go, watch the filmmaker talk and hear about their struggles. Sometimes you get to meet them and ask a question. Might be someone in the audience that'll you're sitting next to. Oh, I happen to be an editor, or my friend's an actor. Da, 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 da. Let's go out for coffee. You share ideas, and that's how it starts. But you got to be connected with people. You can't be on social media. You got to connect. That human connection has got to be the foundation. Because at the end of the day, speaking about tribe, you also got to be able to get along with people.
Mm.
Because especially in Hollywood, people have short memories. People have long memories, and you can't burn any bridges, because that person in the mailroom might be a CEO one day. Got to treat everybody with respect, professional, and it pays dividends.
And then, of course, there's always the matter of being in the right place at the right time and recognizing the opportunity, right?
Yeah, and you do that by failing. It's like, okay, I should have zigged instead of zagged here. I shouldn't have said this, or I shouldn't have said that. You have to kind of go through those paces, and you have to go. I think it was Churchill that said that, being successful is failing with enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to brush yourself off and move to the next thing. And if you do that, you'll get a little nugget of inspiration that'll keep you going. I call it jumping from lily pad to lily pad.
Interesting analogy.
Don't stay on it too long on those things. You got to move to the next thing.
Well, thank you so much. With that, I'll turn it back over to Greg.
And to our audience members, once again, you are listening to the Quintasia podcast, and we are talking today with Satie Gossett, and I like the conversation that we had. Thank you so much for taking the time, trying to, with our podcast, shed a little insight into this process of both for people who are admirers of film and television, and those who want to maybe one day be in the industry. And by no means, I'm kind of weaving my way now into the industry. I started out really on the music side and dealing with music artist, and now I'm working my way over to film and television. But the same thing that I noticed on the music side is definitely true here, and you touched upon it a second ago in terms of what it takes to be successful, and the ability, and how that relates to the ability to get along with other people. Um, I've worked with a lot of, really, really talented people, and their careers went nowhere. And I think I know why.
So if you worked on the music, you're a hip hop fan, I assume, right?
No, no, that is definitely not me.
Really? Okay. What do
No,
you listen to?
I'm more of a jazz, traditional R&B kind of guy. I'm old school.
So Zydeco and bluegrass. Okay, got it.
Yeah, well, yes, I happen to. Yeah, and I like some weird offshoots too. Like, not a whole lot of people know about Satie so that was an incident. But yes, I happen to like Satie music.
Awesome.
What I find is that uh, not taking care of, in business school they call, and I hate the word, soft skills. The relationship stuff. To me, it's not soft skills. It's if I look at the people who, and it's true not just in the entertainment world, it's true in any business. Those with strong relationship skills are the ones that tend to climb the ladder, because you need those. Um, you need that network to help propel your career forward. Um, what would you what I know you talked about it, the networking thing. How does that message, when you tell your students the need to network? I'm just curious, how is that received?
It's about as well as you would think it'd be received. But it is a necessary skill, like you said, not in just the film business, but in just in life. Getting your first job, working at McDonald's, be personable in life, people in the eye, and shake their hand and dress the right way. It all translates, and it all kind of goes back to how you make a person feel. It's not about what you say. Maya Angelou said that. It's not what you say, it's how you make a person feel. And has that lasting impression. And when you see that person again, that connection is made, that resonates. You want to help that person with whatever resource or cachet they have. So,
And
and it's
now,
just practice. It's just practice, and you got to use what you're innately born with, and it's like a muscle.
right.
That we got to exercise it.
Now,
And
I
the thing that I'm sorry, and the thing that
no,
helps you exercise it is up against the thing that you want. It's like, oh, I really want to learn about this person. So it's that desire pushes you to exercise the skill.
very
Now,
true.
I have to ask, what kind of music, Satie, do you sort of play on that guitar behind you?
Oh, that's how window dressing. It's to make me look smart.
Good answer. It definitely piqued my interest when I saw it over your shoulder, and I was wondering, I wonder what he's strumming to.
Yeah, I
So,
tried to play for a couple months and I just stopped.
so what kind of music do you like? What kind of music do you like to listen to?
It's about as eclectic as my movie taste, I would say. I mean, but 90s hip hop is the foundation. 80s, I like 80s music a lot. 70s and 80s music. I like what's called yacht rock. I don't know if you've heard of yacht rock.
I can't say that I have.
It's like a lot of one hit wonder type stuff. Steely Dan is a big fan. I'm a big fan of
Hmm.
Fleetwood Mac. I grew up in Malibu, so Duran Duran, like all that 80s stuff I used to love. And again, hip hop. A lot of the stuff I hear today, it just doesn't do it for me.
Does it resonate?
Exactly. I feel like the old man in the car.
Well, that's definitely me. Today's, it's just their approach to music production is just different than what it used to be. It's very, I would describe as minimalist. Um,
It's in minimal effort. There's a difference between minimalist and minimal effort.
Very true. And there, I definitely get the minimal effort kind of feeling, but fortunately, there's some bright spots out there, and there are some artists that for whatever reason, um, they they catch my attention. Not to name drop, but um, I and this is how you know you're getting old. So I'll listen to songs and I don't always know the artist who's singing it. But I will give a shout out to, because like I said, I like and R&B is pretty much dead. But you have people like The Weeknd who are trying to bring it back. So I'm very, there are a few songs of his that really resonate with me, and I'm hoping he will be successful.
Now you
He did
mentioned the. Go ahead.
he did the Super Bowl halftime show.
Yes, yes, and that was big. Although, well, the version he did of my favorite song wasn't my favorite, "Call Out My Name," but which was the very first song that he did in his set. But it was, I think he's an interesting artist, and I wish him all the best. And again, I hope that we do see a resurgence in R&B. But getting off topic, just my my personal desires there on the
Hmm.
music.
Well, just on that point about minimalistic production, you mentioned Steely Dan, and at that period, I'm a bit older. Representing the diversity and inclusion, I'm sort of the old guy in the room. I remember when I went and saw Steely Dan live, and
Oh
I
wow.
I I did not appreciate the effort that went into the production of their albums, because I was expecting a near mirror image of what was on the releases. And it was only when I saw them live that I realized the amount of effort that must have went into the production.
Yeah, their stuff is very complex, and just the musicianship is second to none. Yeah,
But
the lyrics are awesome, and
absolutely spot on. I mean, the production, and it was only when I actually saw them live that I said, "Wow, I never guessed." Because you go in and you have the expectations when you're going to see an act, what they're going to sound like, and how they're going to be received, and what their personalities are. And I have to say, I was expecting my expectations of Steely Dan were probably over the top, having listened to a lot of their music and being very excited, but then actually seeing them live, maybe it was their equipment or something. I mean, I don't know what it was, but it certainly, the production of the albums was not mirrored in their live performance. But they're very talented.
I have this idea, and I'm just throwing it out there, not asking for. um, I want to, as we meet different people, um, I really think that there would be a value in getting all of you together. Now, how we do that in a pandemic, I haven't quite. I mean, obviously, there's the ubiquitous, like we're on now, do the web conference kind of thing. Um, but I am kind of hoping that uh, we can one day meet in person, because I definitely think that there are, and I'm sure you see this yourself, synergies. Like you said, you know, when you attend a Q&A session, you hear somebody talking and they go, oh, well, I'm doing this. And then, oh, I'm doing this, or I'm trying to do something like that, or I know someone who's trying to do like that. That's what in meeting and talking to all of you, that's what I'm hearing, as we were talking with various filmmakers. It's like, oh, you're working on this? Oh, we met somebody 2 weeks ago. Maybe you two should talk or something like that. So I would like to at some point maybe have a panel with you guys, but be further down the road.
Well, I mean, the hope is that I'll be able to come to the city sometime in June for the pilot program. Things continue to open up. If we do, we'll meet for finish. That's it.
Okay, sounds good. We'll definitely be here. I got my first vaccine shot this week, so I'm going to be feeling more adventurous than I have been in the last 6 months. Um,
I have a
well,
question.
sure, absolutely.
What's the Q stand for? Your middle name? Is that quality or what is that?
No, well, it's so my middle name is Quinn, but it's spelled Quen. And I've had several businesses and I've always used some derivation of that. The name I wanted to use Quen, but in the state of New York, there's actually a Korean family that has a couple of businesses with that same name. So it wasn't available. Quinn, I was happened to be looking at something, Disney's Fantasia. Boom! It was really that's the origin of the. I since came to know that Quintasia is also, it just happens, it's a girl's name. um, you
I
know,
thought of that, but I didn't want to say anything.
one
And
of
and
Malcolm
and
X's children is Quintasia. So
and she will fight you after lunch too.
yes,
Yeah.
I think there was actually a singer too.
Well,
Um,
Fantasia from American Idol.
No, there's actually a singer, Quintasia. I think I want to say Shuttle is her last name.
Oh,
Um, but right now, well, we used to own the rights to the Quintasia name. I don't have Quintasia.com anymore at the moment, but I'm going to take care of that.
well,
Unless
well,
unless that
you towed the line good because you went from like Stephen Kimchi orders to the R&B singers.
there you go. See, diversity and inclusion. That's what we're all
There you
about.
go.
Well, thank you so much again for sitting down and talking with us. We really enjoyed our conversation and wish you all the best in your endeavors. And we hope you stay in touch. Well, we hope to see you when you
In
come out in
June.
June. Yes.
Definitely, guys.
All
Thank
right.
you for having me, Harv. Greg, have a great weekend.
You too.
You too. And
Thank you, Satie.
so everybody, you've been listening to once again the Quintasia podcast, and on behalf of Harv Lotko and our guest Satie Gossett, thank you so much for being here today. And bye bye, and we'll see you next time.